Welcome to Pay Attention, a podcast guiding you from the chaos of the mind to the clarity of the heart. Here's your host, Holly McNeill.
Hello and welcome. We are just a few days from spring ahead here in 2026. So, the trees are starting to bud, and it's pretty warm here in Southern California. So we're seeing kind of an early spring. I know it's been cold in other parts of the country, but welcome here as we continue our journey across the bridge from autopilot and habitual reactivity, through science, contemplative practices, and ancient wisdom. In this first half, I've decided to do the podcast in two halves. First half of season 2. Today, we're heading more towards the contemplative side of the bridge as we get towards spring. And so we're going to spend time not in the waking mind. We spend so much time in thoughts and kind of, trying to control our circumstances, trying to end suffering in the thinking, waking mind. And today we're going to spend a little more time in the dreaming mind. And to help me with that, live in the studio, I have Robert Waggoner. Robert, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks, Holly. Great to be here.
Yes, Robert is joining us from Des Moines, Iowa, which apparently has around 1 million people, which I didn't even know it was so large. What's the weather like there for you today?
It's still winter here, and so it's a little bit cool, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'll be in Pittsburgh next week for a conference, and it's going to be in the 70s next week in Pittsburgh, which is crazy, but I am happy to hear that. So Robert and I met in the studio right before Christmas of last year, and I'm going to introduce him here when we get the recording going. But this is really a big this topic of lucid dreaming has really been a big part of my life. I'm so blessed to have had that conversation with Robert, to share it with you today. We're gonna listen to it together. We will be in the background. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to ask, and we will come back at the end. So Robert, sit back and enjoy, and everyone enjoy this episode of Pay Attention. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pay Attention. We're in the studio today towards the end of the year, and I just finished my last class for my year-round Mindful Living Awareness Hub, where I summarized that the whole journey is to that journey of awareness, to be able to see your conscious awareness versus the thoughts that you think, who you are versus what you think, what you create. And there's a whole kind of untapped landscape to really help you do that, and untapped and misunderstood, because obviously most of our waking time obviously is in our waking, our gross mind, but the dreaming mind has so much to tell us and to teach us. And so today I am so excited and honored for my guest today, one of the most respected educators in lucid dreaming in the world. He's got over 40 years in this, former president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. Welcome, Robert Waggoner. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks, Holly. Great to be here.
Yeah. So tell us. I always ask my guests, how did you get into this fascinating topic of lucid dreaming?
I was one of those young people who was just really fascinated by dreams altogether. On occasion, I'd have a precognitive dream, and I just found that amazing. How does that happen? So it was when I was a junior in high school, I was reading a book by Carlos Castaneda called Journey to Ixtlan. And in this book, his shamanic teacher tells him how to become aware within his dreams. But there really wasn't a technique, and so I just invented my own technique, and within 3 days, had my very first lucid dream.
3 days. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And I was going to ask you, for those listeners out there that might not, but where the term is unfamiliar, what exactly lucid dreaming is. And you said something else, a precognitive dream?
Right, right.
Just give a little explanation of both of those.
Yeah, so a precognitive dream is when you have a dream of something, and then later it happens in waking life. And so as a little kid, I would be in a dream and I'd hear somebody say an unusual set of words. And then 5 hours later, I'd be on the playground with my little friends, and one of the little kids would say exactly that set of words. And I thought, boy, the probability of that happening is just 1 in a million. So that's what you'd call a precognitive dream.
Okay.
But a lucid dream means that you realize within the dream that you're dreaming. You literally know, hey, wait a second, this is a dream. I'm dreaming this. And once you know that, then you can begin to explore, experiment. You can do amazing things once you know that you're within a dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a cliche, but the world is really your oyster, right? Because you have so much more control. And we're going to talk about controlling dreams here in a bit. But first of all, I just wanted to say that, I just really admire people that had that really early curiosity, really early understanding. Because I hit rock bottom at 34. And it took me years to crawl out of it. So this space of awareness isn't that new to me anymore. But anyway, good on you. But so when you become lucid in the dream, you said it took you 3 days to do it. I mean, when I first became lucid in a dream, I was so shocked I woke myself up, right? So I know you have 2 books out there, and one of them, which we're not going to get into technique too much right now, but one of them is really all the tips. And it sounds like if you can do it in 3 days, I mean, how long did it take the average person to figure out how to become lucid in their dreams?
So it'll vary according to people's interest and their practice and which particular practice they use. That's why I wrote a book, Lucid Dreaming Plain and Simple, which was all the tips and techniques I used to teach myself how to become lucidly aware. Now, I do want to say, just for those listening, that to be a frequent lucid dreamer in a scientific sense means that you just have one lucid dream a month. So just the fact that you become lucid doesn't mean that every night, after that you become lucid. That's not how it works. Normally you have to focus and put some energy and thought into this practice and all, but the results can just be utterly profound. And that's why I love lucid dreaming. It taught me so much about how the unconscious works. And that was the first important lessons that I learned early on when I was a lucid dreamer.
Yeah, and that's what I want to get into. But just to back up a little bit, one lucid dream a month is considered frequent.
Is considered a frequent lucid dreamer. Now, there's some people out there who'll tell you they have a lucid dream every night, and that's great. But for a lot of us, we actually have to do practices. And if I don't do any practices, I'll probably have 2 lucid dreams a month. But if I start doing practices, I've gotten up to having 30 lucid dreams a month when I did some of my really deep mindfulness practices that I mentioned in my second book.
That makes me feel better because I do have them, but it's not every night. And so I thought, well, maybe I need to practice harder, but that is good to know. But once you get in there, I know when you get into your lucid dream, you can control it. You can go skiing, you can go flying, but there's so much more, right? What is that landscape showing you? What can you learn about yourself? I mean, it's just this whole other kind of world, right?
Right. So one of the first things you have to learn as a lucid dreamer is just like you said a moment ago, you have to learn not to get so excited that you wake yourself up. Because that's what I hear from beginners all around the world is, I became lucid, but then I got so excited I woke up. So there's kind of 3 early techniques that I teach people. But the very first one is you have to stay, you have to keep your emotions within a certain range. You can't get way too excited because then you'll wake up. You can get happy, you can get excited, you can get a little bit euphoric, but if you get way too excited, you're going to wake up. So first you learn how to stabilize the lucid dream so that you can begin to explore and experiment. But once you do that, then what I realized as I went on, you can use it to access creativity. You can use it to promote psychological and emotional healing. You can use it to promote physical healing. You can use it to engage your own unconscious mind, your own inner awareness. You can ask it questions within the lucid dream. And finally, you can use it, as people have done for thousands of years, to do spiritual practices within lucid dreams, like meditate within a lucid dream. So it's a wide open field once you learn how to become lucid and stabilize the lucid dream.
Yeah, I don't know if I would meditate. I mean, meditation is great, and I understand it, and I get why we do it. But I'm not gonna do that when I get in there. But you talked about being able to understand your inner awareness. So 95% of everything that we think we are, everything that creates our identity, goes on below our level of awareness. So you're saying that we have access to that in our dreams. What does that mean? What do you ask? What does that look like?
Yeah. So there's kind of two parts to this. The first part is what I learned as I just played around in lucid dreams. First, I learned that the lucid dream would oftentimes reflect back to me by my beliefs and expectations. So if I decided to fly through this wall in a lucid dream, knowing that it was made out of dream stuff, if I believed it, expected not to have any trouble, I would zip right through that wall, no problem. But if I expected to have trouble right as I got up to it because I believed it looked so solid, I'd get stuck halfway through the wall, or I'd hit the wall and bounce off of it, even though it was made out of dream stuff. And so that was the very first lesson I began to see, belief and expectation matters. Then I began to see that your focus matters, because once you become lucid, there's all sorts of things you can focus on. You can focus on those people over there having fun at the beach. You can focus on, there's a Buddhist guy over there in a maroon robe. Oh, and over there's somebody selling newspapers and all. You have to decide what you're going to focus on. And so that was another thing that I learned, because oftentimes we'll have habitual instinctual energies that drag us towards the fun or drag us towards, some habitual activity. And so you got to really become aware of those energies. And then finally, I would say I began to see the importance of intent. What's your intent in a lucid dream? Do you want to heal your bad knee? Do you want to interact with your larger awareness? What is it you want to do? And so once you stabilize the lucid dream, what I would normally suggest is asking yourself, what is it that I want to do? Oh yeah, I want to do this, that, or the other. But that's how, in 1985, if you can imagine this, I'd been lucid dreaming for 10 years, and I was in a course where we had a monthly experiment to do. And that's when I discovered that there is actually an inner awareness behind the dream. You could actually engage your unconscious mind in the lucid dream.
That is mind blowing. I mean, you mentioned your book, Lucid Dreaming: Gateway to the Inner Self. That's the mind blowing book. But there's just so much to unpack in what you just said. So I always teach that what you believe, right, in this waking world. When I hit that rock bottom, I believed there had to be something better. And I went towards that better. And little by little, that better showed up. And in your dreams, you get that almost instantaneously, as you explained.
Right.
If you believe you can go through the wall made of dream stuff, which we can talk a whole bit about what dream stuff is, you can. And if you don't, you get stuck. I love that.
Yeah, I remember reading a woman's lucid dream that was in a newsletter, and she said that she was relatively new to lucid dreaming and she wanted to go flying, so she flew really high, and then she would look down at the ground and get concerned, and she'd start to plummet down. Then she'd think, no, this is my dream. I can do whatever I want. And she'd fly really high. Then she'd look down and plummet again because she had a little bit of fear and concern. And finally, a non-visible voice, which I would call the inner awareness, said to her, doubt is gravity. And that's when you begin to realize that, oh yeah, whenever she got to that point of fear, concern, and doubt, that's when she plummeted. But whenever she believed in her own abilities and believed in her fundamental safety and kind of trusted the universe, she could do whatever she wanted. So again, that's how beautiful lucid dreaming is. It begins to reflect back to you your own issues, your limiting beliefs and ideas, so that you can begin to change them.
And it's so quick, and it's so like, here's how because the thinking mind is out of the way, because a lot of that prefrontal cortex is off getting some rest. It's so quick, and to be able to see, I mean, in your waking life, you want to believe that what you believe creates your world. And
Right.
in the dreaming world, you see that instantaneously.
Right. And I'll tell you how powerful this can be. So lucid dreamers call this lucid living. When you take these realizations that are occurring in the lucid dreams into the waking state. So I came out with my first book, and in my first book, I have a whole chapter on people who have healed themselves of physical issues in lucid dreaming. And I was out in the garden working, and I was thinking, oh my, it's going to be August and September soon, and there'll be so much pollen in the air that I'll have hay fever. And then I thought, well, wait a second. I'm a lucid dreamer, and I see how my mind creates in the lucid dream state. So I did a lucid living activity. This is what I did. Every time I thought about hay fever or had any concern, first I would be mindfully aware of it. You got to notice it's happening. Yeah. Then I told that to stop. And then I realized,
this is in your dreams.
No, this isn't waking state. Okay, this is the waking state. So whenever I had a fear or concern about hay fever, saw a TV commercial about hay fever, first I'd become mindfully aware. Right. Then I'd tell myself, no, not anymore. So I stopped that line of thinking. And then I realized I had to tell my subconscious, unconscious, where I wanted to be. And so then I would always say, from now on, I breathe easily and naturally. And I'll tell you, every time I thought about hay fever, nope, not anymore. From now on, I breathe easily and naturally. The first year, the symptoms reduced 70%. Yeah. The next year, they reduced 90%. The year after that, 95%. Now I don't even have hay fever.
That is amazing. But that was all in the waking state.
It was all in the waking state, because I saw how the mind works in the lucid dream state. Yes. If you believe and expect, and what you tell yourself, if you tell yourself, oh, we got to be fearful here, we're too high, then you'll plummet to the ground. Yes. But if you tell yourself, oh, now I breathe easily and naturally. But I transferred what I knew works in the lucid dreaming state to the waking state, changed my beliefs and expectations about August and September, and suddenly I just have no more hay fever.
I was going to ask you how people heal themselves through dreams, but yeah, that's amazing. You also talked about a focus and habits. Well, focus first, focus on what you want to see, what you want to explore. So you can actually choose in the dream, I would like to explore why I am a certain way, or what do you mean about focus?
Yeah, so focus is really interesting because sometimes we just get into habitual focus. And this is an issue with early lucid dreamers. You can have so much fun in a lucid dream that when they become lucid, all they want to do is play. They want to, dance on the ceiling, walk on water.
I tend to jump out of windows. I don't know why. It's like, I know I'm not going to get hurt. I'm going to jump out this window.
So people have a lot of fun. And at one level, that's just fine. But on another level, if you want to resolve things, then you have to kind of corral your focus and remember, what is it that I truly want to do? And that's when, let's say you had something that you wanted to engage. What I would do is like, I want to meet my most creative self, or when I turn this corner, I want to see the most incredible art I can create. Or when I walk through that door, I want to hear the most beautiful music that I could ever, jot down. Okay. That's how you begin to use your mind. It's kind of a little bit like hypnosis, so.
Yeah, I've done that when not to that extent, but I've learned that you can think something and the next thing that comes. So like my sister will be behind the door and I open the door and there she is. So yeah, if you wanted to know why you get so, like if I want to know why I get so nervous right before I do an interview with someone as wise and lucid, will it show me that? Will it show that's so amazing? I talk about the long black bag. Well, it's Robert Bly's poem, the long bag we drag behind us, and we stuffed all these things away that we can't see. And so
Right.
it goes right in the bag, and it's like, here it is.
Oh yeah, and I've noticed that in lucid dreams. Sometimes I'll have on this weird backpack, and that's when I realize, oh, I'm carrying some stuff with me that I need to think about. But again, when it comes to this issue, you know, as long as you can kind of open your mind to the possibilities, like when I enter that next room, show me something that will help me relax whenever I'm interviewing podcast people.
Yeah.
And you walk into the room and there, who knows what it'll be? Maybe it'll be a teddy bear. Maybe it'll be an ice cream cone. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something like that. So for example, oftentimes in my lucid dreams, when I want to engage my inner awareness, I'll just become lucidly aware, stabilize it, and then I'll just look up and I'll say, hey, dream, show me something important for me to see.
Yes.
So I'm not limiting the unconscious to show me. And sometimes I've seen just utterly profound things that have really helped me and really made my life easier. So that's how you begin to work with it. And you can take it from there. You know, show me the energy of the universe. Show me my ideal self, you know, and show me my inner child. Show me what belief is blocking my progress. And that's how incredible this can be when you begin to engage the unconscious mind.
So incredible. And so you said you first become lucid and you stabilize by that kind of calmness, by staying calm.
Staying calm. Also, what you can do is kind of engage the senses. So you might rub your hands together, and even though they're dream hands, you'll still have this kinesthetic sense of being there. And you might reach out and touch a nearby wall just to kind of ground yourself in that space. So we're making the dream space a little bit more real so that you don't pop out of it. And then you have to maintain your focus. You have to remind yourself every 20 or 30 seconds, oh, I'm dreaming this. So that's a dream tree. There's a dream car. Here comes a dream airplane. Okay. And as you call it dreams, you'll maintain your focus. But at some point there, you should stop and think, okay, what do I really want to do? Oh, I want to find out what a dream figure represents. And so you go up to a dream figure and say, who are you? What do you represent? And
before we get to intent and that, you know, that inner awareness, which is so fascinating. The habits that when you're not aware, when you're not paying attention, what you're dreaming is some of those habits, right? That you subconsciously live out through your life, but it's there showing you these habits. And you talked about, you know, rubbing your hands together. And one of the things, I mean, I used to, when I was in high school, I would look in the mirror and I'd see ugly, you know, because of my own self-doubt and everything. And so when I first started getting lucid and trying to stabilize, I would be afraid to look in the mirror, you know, to see what I would see there because of that habit. But, you know, eventually you realize that it's okay. You know, I was afraid to see what I would see in that mirror. But so intent, when you can stabilize, intent is everything. So when this inner awareness, it's not like you're going to like come walk up and handshake and, hey, how you doing? I've got so much to ask you, right? It does it speak back to you, or is it more in what shows up, or?
Right. So normally it's a non-visible voice who will comment, make a comment or provide something. Sometimes you'll request something, and instead of hearing an auditory response, the entire lucid dream will change, and you'll see this symbolic part of this. So I'll tell you one interesting story. When my first book came out, about 3 years later, I got an email from a young guy who said that he was a recovered meth addict and was now writing me because he just graduated from community college. And he had promised himself that he would write me when he graduated from community college because my first book had such a profound impact on him. So he is in drug rehab and he was bored out of his mind. He was locked away, you know, for 60 or 90 days and had drug counseling. Anyway, the counselor had my first book on his shelf. And so this guy was bored and asked to read it. And he got to the part where I said that you could interact with your unconscious mind. And he got so interested in this that he started to do that in lucid dreams. Finally, in one of the lucid dreams, his inner awareness asked him, would you like to see what your life will be like if you continue to use drugs?
What?
He said, sure, show me. He's just a 19-year-old kid. He doesn't care. He said for the next 10 minutes, it was like a video of all the people he would hurt, all the damage he'd do to his body, all the mayhem he would cause in society. He said when this lucid dream ended, that's when he decided to go cold turkey. And so he is writing me after he got his community college degree, just because he knew he would have to be clean for 2 years to accomplish that. That's how powerful this can really be when you begin to interact with your inner awareness, because it'll show you things, like if you continue on this path, this is what you have headed towards yourself. Are you sure you want to go that way?
Yeah. That inner voice you were talking about is truly your intuition, the wisdom of the flow of the universe, that inner self. Because I hear it. I think everyone that when you're silent and that non-visual voice comes in, and it's not your thinking.
Right. I know for myself, sometimes when I have meditated in the middle of the afternoon, I'm awake, I'm sitting there in my favorite chair. I'll get down so deep that I know my inner awareness is right there. And oftentimes I'll ask it, hey, inner awareness, what do you have to say to me? And oftentimes, just like a lucid dream, I'll hear something. And sometimes it's something that I, Robert, am not aware of in the waking world, as being true. But then when I get out of the meditation and call somebody, they'll confirm that, oh, yes, that happened, or, something completely unknowable and unknown. So again, that's how beautiful this is. You can also do it in the meditative state if you get to that deep level.
I can totally see that if you clear enough of the thoughts and patterns and identity away. So I teach how the mind works, and I just wonder why we're not taught this when we're younger. How habits form, how habits change the mind, how nerve cells that fire together wire together. This is another thing. Why isn't everyone taking advantage of this? I mean, do people think it's too far out there? I know there's always this big no-no in research. I mean, but this stuff is evidence-based. This isn't like it's made up.
Right. Lucid dreaming has been scientifically validated for ever since 1980. And there's tons of research done on lucid dreaming. It's used as one of the possibilities in terms of healing people who have recurring nightmares from PTSD. So there's a lot of research on lucid dreaming. Mm-hmm. But to your question, I think that we're not a culture that values dreaming. Oh. We just ignore dreaming. Little kids have amazing dreams, but everyone, it's just a dream, forget it. And that's what you learn and hear as a child growing up. I'll tell you, a few years ago, I did a course for kids who were ages 8 to 15. And they were the best lucid dreamers I've ever had. If I told them, oh, you want to do this, this, and this, and tonight before you go to sleep, I want you to think like this, boom, they'd do it, and they'd have their lucid dreams. And I was just so impressed by them. But you're right. But when you get a little bit older, then, oh, is this really good? And you have all these issues and all this kind of stuff.
And people have nightmares, and so they fear it. And,
exactly.
Maybe a lot of people think that they're out of control in their dreams. And you can feel that way if you don't understand the mind, right? If you don't understand how you have much, much more control in your dream state than you do in your waking state. It just takes, everything can manifest in your waking state. It just takes longer.
Yeah. And it helps to see in a lucid dream how the belief influences the experience.
Yes.
Believe it's possible, it's possible. Believe it's impossible, now in that lucid dream, it's totally impossible. So you begin to see early on, this is how the mind works. This is really what's going on.
Yeah. And I suppose people that don't understand that, and if there's fear, they're not going to want to go there.
Yeah. It's a learning process. And that's what I've kind of realized about the entirety of life, that we're in an educational system. waking or dreaming, we're in an educational system.
We are.
And so if you learn the lessons now, you're going to do better in this life and likely the next.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is such a short time here, and this journey to awareness, to awakening can be so much enhanced by taking advantage of this dream landscape that we have. So typically at this point, I ask you for a tip, how can somebody get started? But I do have one specific question for you. So people that are having trouble remembering their dreams, is that going to be a barrier to entry on lucid dreaming, or what should they do?
Well, we all dream each night. We spend about 2 hours in the dream state. So what I would suggest is they just ask their inner awareness to let them recall the happiest dream of the night, or something like that. And yeah, just before you go to sleep, hey, dreaming self, let me remember the happiest dream of the night. And then with that expectation in mind, oftentimes they'll wake up and remember it. But a lot of us have the habit of immediately looking at our cell phone or whatever, and you got to be still for a few seconds and think, what was I just dreaming? And then oftentimes it'll come back to you.
Okay. All right. So it's not a barrier. I mean, it's something that most people can find that or grow that awareness of what they really
right.
So everyone dreams. It's just a matter of remembering it.
And oftentimes we have to have a sincere interest in wanting to remember, because if you're totally afraid of dreams, then that's going to be a barrier. But when you start to see the beauty and the value of it and ask your inner self, show me the happiest dream of the night, then you have something to look forward to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I love going to sleep. I think it's a lot of fun. So someone's listening and they want to get started. I mean, obviously, to get your second book was the one about the steps, the simple steps, right?
Right. My second book is called Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. Mm-hmm. And it has all the tips and techniques that I use to get into lucid dreaming, learn how to stabilize the lucid dream, and then also learn how to interact in that mental environment of the lucid dream. And that's the easiest, most approachable way to get into it.
Good to start. All right. Well, thank you, Robert. I'm already going longer than I typically do because I could keep talking about this forever, but thank you so much for joining us. I know I got a lot out of it. I'm sure the listeners are as well. How do people get a hold of you, or if they, what's their next step?
Right. They can find my web address at lucidadvice.com, or they can write me at lucidadvice@gmail.com. And happy to interact with folks.
Any questions they have, it's just such a fascinating world. We are conscious beings here in this waking state, but we're also conscious beings, 8 hours. Well, you said about a couple hours during that time we dream, in that dream state. So
right. And we create the dream through mental principles, and we also create the waking experience through the same sort of mental principles. And that's why these two dovetail, and lucid dreaming can be so educational.
Yeah. Well, I hope to go to the IASD.
That's right.
In June. I hope to maybe speak there. But I know you were the president of that for quite a while.
Right? The International Association for the Study of Dreams. It's just an incredible organization. About a third of the people are therapists, about a third are researchers, and about a third are just people with profound and deep interest in dream work, dream interpretation, lucid dreaming, precognitive dreams, past life dreams, you name it.
Wow.
They come and talk
about that. But anyway, thank you, Robert, so much for coming.
Thanks, Holly.
And thank you, listeners. I hope you got as much of this out of this as I did. And when you go to bed tonight, tell yourself an intention, what you want to see, or even just, that you want to start this amazing journey. And so I wish you well and happy dreaming. And I will see you on another episode of Pay Attention. I just love that topic. And at the beginning of the recording, I talked about the gross mind. We during this conversation, we talked about, how this world that we're in, the waking world, which Buddhists call the gross mind. There's three minds. The gross mind is the waking mind, the subtle mind, which is the dreaming mind, and the very subtle mind, which is that wisdom, that voice, that inner awareness. And so this waking world is, as you said, Robert, is made up much the same as the dreaming world. It's from our beliefs, our habits, and patterns. It's really the same. We're in Buddhism, they say we're actually dreaming here as well, but the dreaming mind just gives you so much more access.
Right. It's interesting when you hear about Buddhist dream yoga monasteries, and normally they'd have the candidates come for 3 years. And the first lesson they try to teach is all this a dream.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're saying that all this is fantasy, all this is illusion. What they're trying to say is, since a dream is a mental creation, a creation of the mind, all of this too is basically fundamentally a creation of the mind.
Yeah.
In my second book, in the final chapter, I actually have a technique. You don't even have to be a lucid dreamer, but it's a mind technique that you can use to show just that basic principle that all of this is fundamentally a mental creation in a very large sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and the more you sit in silence, in Zen Buddhism, it's all about the non-thinking mind. The more you can meet those habits and patterns, and when you can see them, when you put them in the light of awareness, they dissolve, and this world gets a little bit looser. And so the lucid dreaming, the dreaming world, gives you an opportunity to do that, because it's not as, because people don't believe it as much, because it's not so concretized in conscious or community collective consciousness. You have much more flexibility to understand, as you said, how powerful the mind is. So
right. Also, you'll see in the lucid dreams how you project out their habitual ideas, habitual energies, and all that kind of thing. So for example, let's say you're someone who's totally involved in kind of romantic thinking all the time, and you just spend your entire day, could that be a romantic partner for me? Oh, could that person be a romantic partner for me? If you become lucidly aware tonight, what's going to happen? Hey, romantic partners, they'll just be
right.
everywhere because that mental energy is there. It'll get projected out there, and you'll have 4 or 5 candidates there in your lucid dream. But after you've gone through 20 or 30 or 40 lucid dreams like that, then finally you wake up and you go, why is this happening? What is this all about? And I have an issue here. And it's one of those things. At that point, you can decide. No one's forcing you, but as an educational level, you can decide. Now I'm going to focus on something else, and you begin to break that habitual energy and begin to expand your mind.
Yeah, well, I am actually going to be meeting Robert in person at the International Association of the Study of Dreams conference this June in Ashland, Oregon. And one of the topics I talk about is that long black bag, those habits that keep showing up in our dreams until we look at them. But if you can see them, right, then it's all about seeing them in that awareness of seeing them. And then, in fact, this next week I'm going to a conference, the Society for Effective Sciences, and it's all about attention by design. In the waking world and the sleeping world, it's where you focus your attention. As in your example of the romantic partners, or even your hay fever, right? When you have this capacity, this limited amount of attention in this human journey, and where you focus it creates your world in both the waking world and the dreaming world.
Right. I always tell people in my workshops that if you want to change your world, change your mind.
Yeah.
These two things are so connected, but people don't see it. The world out there doesn't have anything to do with me, and I'm great. The world out there is all screwed up. And it's like,
you're talking about what our world is kind of used to, but it is so true that our minds are so powerful. And then even beyond what we create with our thinking mind, when you can get to that silence, that inner awareness, that very subtle mind, as they talk about in Buddhism, that a lot of times people only experience at death, is available. It has much more freedom in the dreaming world, so it's available to interact with. But in the silence, and you can ask in a dream, tell me something important, help me on my what habits are blocking me from seeing, what my true nature. It's just, especially for me, it's early in the morning, when you wake up and then you kind of drift back to sleep, that it's really powerful. So
Yeah. It's definitely a journey, though. Just because you become lucid doesn't mean suddenly you're super wise or you're super anything.
yes.
It begins to show you your own beliefs and your own expectations. Also, some of my most fantastic lucid dreams were the ones that showed me my limiting beliefs that
Yeah.
I had to overcome if I was going to grow further. Because so often we stay in our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And anything we fear, we run away from and get back in our comfort zone. But
Yeah.
lucid dreaming taught me you have to start to face your fears. You have to start to resolve your fears. And by doing that, your comfort zone will expand, and
Yeah.
also your life and your life energies will expand.
Yeah. Our
And
comfort zone. Go ahead.
that was one of the greatest gifts that ever came. Just beginning to resolve fears instead of being hindered
Yeah.
by them.
Yeah, because your comfort zone often is anxiety, that you're comfortable with it, you're familiar with it, so we tend to stay in it. So yeah, that it is a gift to be able to see those and move beyond those, because then there's Tim Olmsted. He's a president of the Pima Chodron Foundation, but known as the small town Buddhist teacher, and he says, an angry mind will see an angry world, and an anxious mind will see an anxious world, both in your waking and dreaming mind. So, what a blessing. And I hope, come to the conference if you're interested in this. It's just such a powerful way to realize how that this world is not so solid, and you're not so small in it. And it's not so concrete, and there's so much more for you in that clarity and awareness. So, Robert, thank you for 40 years, right, of the work you've done, and you're still giving workshops. And
I love it, and I love introducing people to it, because I know that this is an introduction to their own inner awareness, their own
yeah,
inner guidance that'll lead them deeper if they allow themselves that journey.
right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Robert, and I look forward to meeting you in person in June.
Oh, great. Thanks, Holly.
Thanks. And next week, we will continue we're going back to the archives to look at dream interpretation. So we're going to stay with the dream for a two-part piece on dream interpretation. So if you enjoyed this, join us next week. And yeah, happy dreaming, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Pay Attention with Holly McNeill. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.